challenges.
Would you please share with us your ideas and your vision how we have to cope with the challenges of new era?
Thank you, Valeriia. Thank you for the introduction. Unfortunately, my Ukrainian is not good enough, so I will try to do it in English. I hope that the audience had enough coffee this morning because you need to stay awake for a long, long day with a lot of presentations, a lot of public talks, a lot of information that you will need to digest. But let me start by saying two things. First of all, thank you, Valeriia, for the introduction. Thank you for helping me do this public talk. Secondly, I need to say that I'm very honored and flattered to not to stand, but to sit in front of you. That's a big challenge for me, and that's an honor to be sharing some ideas. You know, when our marketing manager approached me a couple of months ago saying, we have a chance, you have a chance to speak at the Kyiv International Economical Forum, you have to come up with a topic. I said, what kind of topic? Should I talk about Lenovo? And she told me, no, you should not bring too much of Lenovo products or services. Don't talk about this. I said, and who's going to be the audience? The media? Yes, some media guys. Business? Yes, some business guys. Public governmental organizations? Yes, some of those guys as well. So what kind of topic should I bring on stage that would be interesting for all those guys without talking about Lenovo? Because my comfort zone is Lenovo, and that's what I know. So that's a big challenge for me to keep you awake, to keep you interested with a topic that, that hopefully will be of a use after this session to you. Okay? So let's get started. Normally I'm taking a less conventional approach to the presentations. I'm not doing a classical way where I give you the agenda, where I'll give you the vision, the goal, and then you go for the details. I'm trying to hide things. I'm trying to make you discover what I want to tell you. This way, you'll stay awake. Okay? So let's get started. We will talk about one specific segment of the industry. And now my flipper is not working. Yeah. So we will talk about one specific segment of the industry, about several entities. And those guys are really driving the economy. They make an important impact on the economy. And now it will not be too much to say that if you take those entities out of any global, let's say, big global economies or even small economies, the market will collapse. They are facing, or let's say, yeah, other one, but it's a little bit slow. They risk the uncertainty on a daily basis. They're being exposed to risks. The uncertainty comes from different angles: economical, financial, social, political, and they're relatively fragile. So they need to mitigate their risk. Unfortunately, they cannot do it in a lot of instances. When we look into more details at those guys, we see that they are exposed to fluctuations. And that starts with currency, and that starts, yeah, they endure the fluctuation that starts with currencies, that starts with the economical and political risks. The good story, the good news about the fluctuations is that it's not only creating risks, but it's creating opportunities. Those entities can leverage them and can stay ahead of those fluctuations and in trying to monetize those fluctuations. They overcome the adversity. They are seeing barriers, and they find barriers on their daily business. Those barriers, again, come from different angles, having barriers with the employees, having barriers with the government, having barriers with the social interaction, learning, education, all those barriers. And unfortunately, those barriers can be quite let's say, destructive to those entities. Even small barriers that they can find, they will meet in their professional life, let's say, can be quite damaging to their business. And when they talking about those entities, I have to, let's say, to conclude that they are small but yet very powerful and can deliver a significant impact to the market. Just giving you some numbers, and those numbers will be related to the EU 28, so the 28 countries part of the European Union. We're talking about 22 million of those entities. Just imagine 22 million entities that I used the research from the survey from 2015, 2016. At this stage, most probably you have already significantly more, but 22 million of those entities have been active on the market. And if that's not a big enough number for you, let me share you something more. The value add that those entities are generating account for almost $4 trillion. One important thing for the guys that have been, for the people in the room that have been studying macroeconomics, you would wonder why I'm talking about value add and not GDP, right? That's a new trend where value add can be quantified in dollars, and you will see a lot of differences between value add information and GDP information. In any case, those entities have been generating about $4 trillion of GDP. Their social impact is enormous as well, because they employ about 90 million people within EU alone. If you extrapolate it to worldwide scale, those numbers will be multiplied by 5 or 6. And in terms of economic power or dynamics, if the EU countries, after the economic crisis in 2008, 2009, were growing at a pace of 1, 2, 3%, the most advanced ones, the better prepared markets would grow at 3%, those entities are growing at a pace of 5.7%. So they bring the dynamic to the markets. I think at this stage you understood whom I am talking about. I'm talking about SMB, right? And when we're doing a rehearsal for this presentation, I specifically asked Valeriia not to give my full title. So at Lenovo, I'm responsible for the business operations for SMBs, small and medium business. And we will talk more about SMBs, but just to give you a small disclaimer. If you start reading about SMBs, if you do some search, you'll find 2 acronyms. SMB, small and medium business, and SME, small and medium enterprise. I'm using the acronym SMB for 2 reasons. At Lenovo, we're used to SMB historically, to this acronym. And the second reason, SME, in a lot of instances, stands for subject matter expert, which is used a lot in the modern, let's say, marketing. So I don't want to confuse you. That's why I will use SMB terminology, SMB acronym going forward. Again, you don't need guys like me to stand in front of you and talk about SMBs in the classical terms. Just go, sorry. I'll go a little back because I'm going ahead. At Lenovo, for us, it's very important to understand who the SMB entities are, right? What they deliver. The classical way to classify the SMBs is coming by the business size. The small or very small entities are coming from 1 to 9 employees. The small ones would be counted from 10 to 99 employees, and the big ones would be, the medium ones would be 99 or 100 to 999 employees. A small difference is mature markets versus emerging markets. So mature economies, SMBs will go to 999, while emerging markets, mostly Asian and Eastern European markets, would stop at 500. Any companies above 500 employees would count as large enterprise. So that's the classical way. If you go on Google, right, you'll find the classical way of segmentation of SMBs. At Lenovo, this is not enough, because we need to understand how we work with those entities, what is important to them, what trends, what social trends, what economical trends they're embracing. So that's why we need to add some more segmentation. We're talking about maturity. For the maturity, we take two criteria. One is the time that those companies have been on the market, in the industry specifically, and the weight of growth, right? So if the companies are within the market for 1 or 2 years, those would be startups. And if I'm not wrong, people with red badges, they're coming from the startup segment, and I'm very pleased to see a lot of red badges here in the room. The companies that have been in the market or in the industry for more than 3 years, they will be classified as growth or mature. Difference between growth or mature would be the growth rate. So companies that are growing more than 10% every year, they would qualify as growth. Mature would be normally companies with less than 10% growth. And the third element, because we need to deliver services, we need to deliver solutions to those companies. Their buying experience, their IT knowledge varies a lot, right? So we need to understand how IT or organizational sophisticated those companies are. And we split them into low, medium, and high. Normally, companies, SMB companies with high sophistication, they would have an organization, they will have an IT organization, they will have an IT manager, and then they will have an IT DM, so IT decision maker. And that's not the same as the owner of the company or the technical director of the department. Okay, so that's how we classify, that's how we try to understand SMBs better, and how we should deliver services, solutions, products to those guys. What I wanted to say just a couple of seconds ago is that you don't need guys like me to stand in front of you to tell you a lot about SMBs in the classical way. Just go and Google it, right? I did a Google search, I put the SMB keyword, I got 139 million answers instantly, within less than 1 second.
It is clear that SMBs play a significant role in the economy. Could you please give us some examples that could be of interest for our audience?
I was anticipating this question, and I think at this stage people start getting a little bit tired of too much information, so I want to excite a little bit more. So I was thinking, what stars, what exciting examples of SMBs should I share with you? And from what angle? And I have chosen 2 groups. Group number 1, Airbnb. Group number 1 still, Uber. And group number 1, WhatsApp. So those companies have been very small, or let's say small businesses up to a point, and they are still from the size point of view. But they have a capitalization, or a theoretical capitalization is going in billions of dollars. WhatsApp has been bought by Facebook for $19 billion. Airbnb, Uber, they're still private companies, but their capitalization, judged by the market, would be above $10 billion. What groups them together? And they're SMBs, right? They're employing less, or recently they were employing less than 100 employees, right? What groups them together in this category is the disruptive technologies, or the leverage of disruptive technologies at some stage. I did not know who will be in the room, and I was expecting that there will be some people from the business that would tell me, hey, that's clear, but we're not having a disruptive technology to leverage. I am more traditional. I'm in manufacturing, I'm in services, I'm representing some tourist agencies.
And those are the heroes, and they use disruptive technology, but you mentioned that we have 22 million of companies, SMBs companies, and they might not have this disruptive technology.
Correct, Valeriia, I agree with you. Those have raised from disruptive technologies, but other companies in the market might not have it. So what I did, I went on Yahoo Finance and figured out a couple of companies with capitalization, with the current capitalization above $2 billion. And went back and looked how they looked 10 years ago, exactly 10 years ago. And I ended up with this. Under Armour, most probably you know it. Monster Beverages. And Dockers. Right, the company that owns the UGG brand. Okay, so those guys have not started with a disruptive technology at the beginning. They've been on the market for a long period of time. But 10 years ago, Under Armour company was employing 500 employees. Monster Beverages, that had a different name, Hansen name, 10 years ago, were employing 300 employees. And Dockers, they were employing 200 employees. Since then, the capitalization increased dramatically, right? It not even doubled. They are times 10, times 20. And I was thinking, what makes, and they're in manufacturing, they're in food processing, right? So they did not use a specific technology, new technology to change their core business. But what makes them successful is the adoption of a certain technology at a certain period of time better than the others. Those guys have used digital media, digital marketing as early adopters. They have been on social media, Twitters, Facebooks, as soon as they have starters, right? WhatsApp. They have used social media a lot in order to promote and bring their new value, their new brand to the large mass. They did not spend as the classical companies through TV or newspapers, but they specifically have been targeting digital marketing to promote their products.
So are there any trends that we could see that could help those companies to become more competitive or to stay more competitive?
Right. Yes. Well, there are, from our point of view, from my personal point of view, so far I was giving you the classification of SMBs, just for you to feel a little bit what I'm talking about. I gave you some stars in the SMB market. Now I want to talk more about the trends, the disruptive technologies, but they will not be only IT. By the way, at Lenovo, IT is not anymore information technology, but is intellectual transformation or intelligent transformation, right? So I will not talk about intelligent transformation trends, but I will try to bring you some trends from the educational area. I'll try to bring you some trends from the social aspects, some economical trends as well, okay? And I think those trends are vital, critical to the SMBs. So let's start with the first one. This is education and learning. My personal belief is that the current or the modern educational system, people going to the school and the university, should stop after 5 years. You don't need to go to the school for more than 5 years. That's enough. Our schools, the big chunk of the universities are pretty much outdated in terms of what they're teaching us. We're moving to an area where the information is widely available. You don't need to know all those data. What is important is getting skills. And unfortunately, the mainstream of our education system is not giving us. right? They're not teaching us skills. They're trying to put it into us data that we forget, that we will never use. The other part is they are not teaching us how to use the data we have got. In the best case, they tell us how to find the data, but they're not teaching us how to use it. And I'm flattered to be sitting next to Valeriia, who's representing the modern trend of education. Thank you very much. And when I was preparing to talk about this educational and learning curve trend, I went and found a survey done by HR specialists. Okay? So the HR and recruiting specialists. And that's what they're telling us. Hard versus soft skills. The recruiters, when they hire people, they value already now more the soft skills versus hard skills. 56% of the recruiters, they say that for them it's more important that the person applying for the position would have a soft skill than a hard skill. By soft skill, leadership, teamwork, problem solving, abilities, like communication abilities, versus hard skills that we're learning, knowing how to code, knowing how to program, knowing how to, I don't know, make a presentation. Those are important, but they become less and less relevant to the hiring boards or the hiring specialists. And even the applicants, the guys that are applying for a job, they believe that they're at 81% that their soft skills are more important and make a success criteria when they apply for the job. By the way, the sample is not small. We talk about 4,000 professionals that have been interviewed, and they're giving us these results. Okay? So learning and education, it's a trend which is changing from hard skills to soft skills. Now we'll move to more of my comfort zone, talking about IT, and I'll give you an IT trend which is emerging. Cloud. I don't think there is anyone in the room that haven't heard word cloud. Cloud technology has been there for 20 years, and there are, as you can see, there are different initiatives, but it went mainstream only 1 year ago. But just think what we've been doing with cloud. At 90%, we've been using cloud as storage. And this is not enough. That is not bringing us any, let's say, savings. The new words that, the emerging words that you'll hear recently will be AAS. So it'd be SPIAS, where AAS stands as a service. So it has to be, it could be software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, device as a service, PC as a service, and I can continue endless talking about as a service. When you are buying a service or a solution that you actually don't own on your premises, that the cloud, let's say, technology allows you to have significantly bigger infrastructure, significantly bigger platform, but it's not sitting in your premises. And why cloud is significantly more important to SMBs than to enterprise companies or large companies. The large companies, they have the scale, right? They can afford it. They have premises, they have resources. The SMB ones, they don't, in most of the cases. So whenever you can save time, space, resources, you should leverage it. And unfortunately, SMBs are a little bit lagging behind in terms of adoption of all those technologies or all those services. Moving next, IoT, Internet of Things availability. Internet of Things, as you know, are a lot of small electronic or even big electronic devices. It could start from the anti-thief tracking system in a supermarket, to your smart home, to your fridge in the house, to your car, to your recording system, to anything. Forbes is, I was just reading yesterday, Forbes is saying that by 2020, 95% of all the electronic devices will be smart. And they will be part of IoT, what a specific electronic device makes it different from an IoT device is the ecosystem, right? They have to be in an ecosystem. They have to be connected. They have to be smart. And that's another area where SMBs can break through. Until recently, development, execution, design of different devices was quite expensive for most of the companies, right? And only the companies with large scale, with large budget can afford it. Now this is decreasing at hyperscale, right? The cost of designing the devices is decreasing significantly, and SMB companies can leverage. They can be either part of the cloud which is providing, which is connecting the devices, or they can be the ones which are creating and selling the devices, or they can be users of those devices. Another part, big data. That's another buzzword. And here I have to tell you that we moved from an information era to a technology or digital era, right? Nowadays, each of us are generating 30 megabytes of data per day. Even if you are not touching a screen, smartphone, PC, we are generating 30 megabytes of data per day. We're being filmed by CCTV cameras, we're checking in, we're using different services that are supported by data-intense activities. We are having already 5 billion smartphones used worldwide. I don't know if you realize, but we're having 500 million social media platforms, blogs, different forums, different exchanges, 500 million. We are generating 2.5 quintillion of bytes of information through our connected devices. I don't know if you imagine the quantity of data that makes. And all the purchasing information that we make on a daily basis gets stored. So this huge amount of data has to be processed. The difference between information era and digital era is that the fact that in the past, all the data, before it gets stored, gets processed. Now, 20% of the data, it's raw data. It's not processed yet. And that's a huge opportunity to different companies, especially SMB companies, to be part of the ones processing data and getting the benefits out of that. This is a trend which I like a lot, artificial intelligence and machine learning, and there is a good reason for that. It's controversial. Gartner, another company that does marketing research, is saying that artificial intelligence by 2021 will start faking the content by itself. So we need to build a technology that stops, diversifies, or let's say splits the real content, the correct content that artificial intelligence is creating from fake content. And that's another technology which I'm not going to talk about today, but is the filtering of artificial intelligence content. For the artificial intelligence, you'll think, hey, that's fine. It's a big thing. A lot of companies are talking about that, but I need millions of dollars to be using that, right? To be using the artificial intelligence. I can tell you that not. Think about chatbots. How much it costs currently to develop and use a chatbot? We're talking about tens of thousands of dollars, right? So chatbot is already an artificial intelligence. And same Forbes magazine is saying that by 2021, companies, especially development companies, software development companies, will spend more money and more resources on developing chatbots than developing applications for smartphones, right? Or Google-based smartphones. So At Lenovo, we are putting a lot of energy, a lot of intellectual energy in developing and understanding what kind of solutions we can offer to our customers in artificial intelligence. Again, why I brought the example of chatbots and why I'm telling you that it's not that expensive, because SMBs can leverage already those technologies now. Digital marketing, social media, live streaming, content creation, those technologies existed in the past, but they are being moved into mainstream right now. Another study which I've learned says that only 20% of the millennials, people born after 2000, right, they own a TV currently. In the past, we used to have 1, 2, or even 3 TV sets in the household. More and more, we're giving away TV sets and we're consuming the content through other devices and through other systems. The young generation, the millennials, they don't want to listen and watch something which for them is not interesting. They want to watch the specific content right now, okay? And of course, that specific content is being created easily. We can do live streaming and we can share this information pretty much on an instant basis. And leveraging, remember the 3 heroes I've been talking at the beginning, Under Armour, for example, they've been using very well the digital marketing, and this will only accelerate. So I'll speed up, I think, Valeriia, because I don't have much time. Blockchain, again, a controversial technology so far. The usage is cyber currencies, right? And a lot of governments are not happy about it, but I think the technology behind blockchain will provide significantly more benefits than just the transfer of data. In essence, what's it?
I just want to interrupt you and want to speed up. And given that all those technologies, they could help SMBs to become better players. However, larger companies, they do have more power, leveraging power, more resources, more cash. How SMBs could help all these technologies?
Yeah, thank you. That's a good overview. So I have more trends which I can share with you, but I think I will group them under this table. From blockchain, artificial technology, big data, business culture, learning, uniqueness of the things, those trends will benefit large enterprise companies. They will benefit companies with big resources, no doubts, or they have benefited already in the past. My message to you is that those new clouds, those new technologies can be adopted currently at a higher speed by small and medium businesses. They will benefit them in a way that they can reduce their capital expenses, they could speed up the processes, they could bring mobility and cost savings to the company, they will make them more adaptive. Just taking a couple of those which we have not discussed before. Uniqueness. With a lot of content, with a lot of products, with a lot of processes that are existing in the market currently, where they became very consumerized, customers want something unique. By having something unique, they create very niche segments. Big companies, they are too big to be focused and deliver a very good product or a very good service for a niche, for a very small market. While for SMBs, this is easy, right? Where this is big enough, the market, even the niche market is big enough for them to focus and deliver the best product that they could find on the market. The benefits that all those technologies, all those trends would give to the SMBs, I think they're exponentially higher than to the large enterprise that I said are already either leveraging or on the par with SMBs. Remember that what makes them different is the size and resources and the exposure to risks. The SMBs cannot mitigate the risk to the same scale as the large enterprise companies. All those technologies, all those companies will help them do this better. If I just quickly summarize the difference between enterprise and SMB customers. First is flexibility. You're not having that many employees. Your process are not that complex. If you are successful putting your processes and tools on a cloud, you will become significantly more flexible. The market is changing. You can change together with the market. Another one is team spirit. In large companies, and I'm part of large company, and I know that whenever we think that something is wrong with our spirit, with our employees, we're trying to develop and deploy a message to the employees. That takes time and that takes money. The team spirit within an SMB, by talking to the SMBs, by discussing with them let's say the business setup, is much more relevant. Customer interaction. I am driving an initiative at Lenovo which is developing a mid-market call center concept, right? And why this concept is important to us? First, by selling more to the customers, obviously, but second, by having the interaction. The biggest value I see at the SMBs is their possibility and their capability to talk to the customers. Large enterprises are spending a lot of money to pass the message, and they are spending even more money to get the feedbacks and process this data. In SMBs, you are much closer to the customers, and you can get the feedback instantly. And another part is, which is important in the emerging market or in the mature markets, is the reporting requirements. SMBs are not supposed to provide a lot of data to different even financial organizations or governmental or regulation organizations, while the large ones are supposed to. When preparing, I looked at the latest survey. Actually, it's not the latest. It's quite fresh, I would say, from 2015, 2016, again from the European Commission, where they identify the barriers or the issues which are pressing the SMBs currently. What the SMBs themselves think that their biggest issues nowadays. So they started with finding customers, finding new markets, availability to hire and keep skilled sales force, ability to compete better or to understand better the competition, cost of production, regulation, and access to finance. Again, those are the most critical ones. The list is much bigger, but the other risks or other issues are much smaller. And I was just mapping what kind of new technologies or new trends can help meet or improve those issues in the near term. Finding customers, as we discussed, digital media is not that expensive. You can do it much quicker. If you are smart enough, you can get in a viral campaign and you'll have, let's say, a brand awareness which will spike within days or weeks. Availability of skilled force. With cloud technology, you can easily do the outsource, not only manufacturing, not only from the manufacturing point of view, but from the design or coding point of view. All this could be done through cloud collaboration. Competition. In competition, the most important thing is understanding with whom you are competing and what they do. That involves a lot of data, and that involves some, let's say, structural repeating processes that you put in analytics. So artificial intelligence most probably, and already right now, are giving us solutions how to understand better our competition. Cost of production with tools that we can put on the cloud, CRMs and ERP systems, with the outsourcing of some of the tasks, the routine tasks somewhere in the cheaper locations. With the big data, we are certainly at a phase where we can improve the cost of production or the cost of labor. Regulations, I'm not going to talk because I'm not an expert there, but in terms of getting finance. Another problem with SMB, they cannot leverage finance. They don't have enough working capital. Crowdfunding. That would be one of the solutions. Another solution would be recurring revenue. The trend now says that the companies, in order to attract more customers, they don't want cash straight away. They could do deferred revenue and they can split the payments. The value here is that this recurring revenue has to be secured, and the recurring revenue needs to increase over a period of time. Okay? So again, linking or giving you an idea what our SMB or European SMBs think are the issues currently, and how we can put in application some of the new trends or technologies. And the pace of technology adoption is increasing currently. You might know that we're having waves of technologies. Now we are in wave number 6. The difference between those waves is that they get much more narrow, and the amount of technologies which are appearing in every single part of the wave is much higher. So what is critical to the companies, to the SMB companies, is to find a way to find the technology, to find the trend that suits them more, and stay on top of that trend. I don't know if I have much more time, Valeriia. Not really. Unfortunately. So I will have to conclude. I could speak a lot about technologies. I could give you some examples. But where I want to conclude is that the SMBs currently are living a new status quo. They live in transformation. In the past, in the old era, you could say, I am transforming my company from point A to point B. Now, the transformation itself is the new status quo. If you talk to an SMB company that is successful, and if you are a journalist, you are from media, and you ask the company, tell me, how will you look in 2 years from now? And they're giving you an answer, something's wrong. Because the answer should be, I don't know. I'm transforming myself all the time. If you are representing large business, if you are representing media, if you are representing the governmental organization, the regulatory bodies, you need to understand that the SMBs are having a new status quo, a different status quo. Don't talk to them the same way that you used to talk in the past. Understand that they are living in transformation. So when you offer them a solution, when you offer them a service, that has to increase the transformation, speed up the transformation, rather than stopping them at some stage. They will never stop, because in the new era, if you are inert, if you stop somewhere, you will be dead very, very soon. So my message, my big message, was to give you a little bit more information about the technologies, tell you about SMBs, and bring the message that the transformation is the new status quo.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We do not have any time left for questions. However, we do have Vitalie all day long here, and if you have any questions, you can approach him. Thank you so much. We have a break.
Thank you.